as a continent has now defined
This is your digital first Pan-African News Network, TOS Television. I am Rose Audu and you're watching TOS News Update. The Ondo State Election Petitions Tribunal sitting in Akure has on Tuesday dismissed the petition filed by Itayo Jagade of the People's Democratic Party against Governor Rotimi Akeredolu of the All Progressives Congress, APC. The chairperson of the three-member panel, Justice Umar Abubakar, while delivering the judgment in Akure, struck out the petition of Itayo Jagade of the PDP for want of jurisdiction. President Muhammadu Buhari has asked the Senate to approve the appointment of Justice Salisu Garba as the acting Chief Judge of the Federal Capital Territory High Court. Garba was sworn in as acting Chief Judge of the FCT High Court in January of 2021, following the retirement of Justice Ishaq Bello from the position. Salisu was sworn in by the Chief Justice of Nigeria, Tanko Muhammad. A civil society organization under the auspices of Association for Public Policy Analysis has lamented the poor state of the nation's educational system, lackadaisical attitude of relevant government ministry, department and agencies at addressing obvious challenges bedeviling the nation's education system. The organization raised a number of concerns and issues at an event tagged Public Dialogue and Partnership Policy for Universal Basic Education Policy Delivery in Nigeria, with the theme Generating Input for Establishment of Partnership Performance Framework Policy for Universal Basic Education. The report. In his keynote address, the National President of Association for Public Policy Analysis, Prince Will Okorie, notes that the objective of APPA is to analyze government public policies with a view of identifying challenges that hinder implementation and profile possible solutions.
The program is in line with the main objective of our association, which is to analyze public policies made by government with a view to identifying challenges that hinder effective implementation and come up with advocacy programs to address identified challenges to enhance implementation so as to improve the quality of life for Nigerians and enhance national development.
Speaking earlier, the group's programs director, Elizabeth Pius, said the dialogue is an advocacy program targeted at generating ideas and relevant opinions.
Dialogue is a strategy, advocacy program designed by our association to generate ideas, opinions, and relevant information that will lead to designing of draft policy document for partnership performance framework.
Representatives of the Universal Basic Education, USAID, Algon, and Sustainable Development Agencies also shares their thoughts on promoting the nation's education sector and curb insecurity in the country.
There is a need for USAID and other development partners to work together with the government at all levels, federal, state, and local, professional associations such as teachers associations and other members of civil society to ensure that our resources are spent wisely and transparently.
SDG 4 is talking about education, and when you've achieved education, I think you've achieved all.
The group further urged all hands to be on deck to provide solutions to all national issues by investing meaningfully in the education sector. On Monday, April 19, Vice President Yemi Osinbajo appealed to the United States of America to halt the moves made by some countries to dump fossil fuel, while at the virtual meeting at the 2021 Johns Hopkins University African Studies Program Conference, where the Vice President was represented by Laolu Akonde, his senior special assistant on media and publicity. The Vice President was concerned with how the United States can reform its foreign policy agenda with the African continent in order to lead Africa into prosperity. He said it was necessary for the U.S. to join forces with Africa in resolving the challenge of climate change. And 2 suspects who specialize in producing and selling drug cookies to school children and other unsuspecting members of the public in Abuja have been arrested by operatives of the National Drug Law Enforcement Agency. The suspect, a 300-level university student, Rhoda Abuja, and her boyfriend, Ifeanyi Nwankwo, were arrested for producing the cookies with Arizona, a highly psychoactive variant of cannabis, alcohol, and retinol, among other ingredients. The lid was blown open following the arrest of Rhoda Abuja at the NNPC Cooperative Estate opposite Katua Estate in Abuja based on a complaint that she gave an unsuspecting young girl the cookies to eat. After eating the drug cookies, the girl lost her mind and could not sleep, making incoherent utterances due to the effects of the cookies. This is your digital first Pan-African News Network, TOS Television, and you're watching News Update. Welcome back. From across Africa, the Chadian army has announced that General Mohamed Idriss Déby Itno, a 4-star general and son of Chad's slain president Idriss Déby Itno, will replace him as the head of its military council. The army spokesman, General Hassan Mamadou Aguana, said on state radio shortly after the announcement that the newly re-elected president had died of wounds while fighting for the country. Charts that the military council had been set up and will be headed by the late president's son. U.S. State Department spokesman Ned Prince said on Tuesday that Washington wants to see a transition in Chad that is consistent with its constitution after the death of President Idriss Déby on Monday. Somalia's President Mohamed Abdullahi Farmajo has called on the African Union to lead talks in the dispute over elections in his country. The Somali president visited the Democratic Republic of Congo President Felix Tshisekedi in Kinshasa, who is also the AU chairperson. Speaking to the press, the 2 heads of state said they had discussed bilateral relations. Elections in Somalia have been delayed because of disagreements among regional and federal governments. And the charges against several personalities, including a former prime minister and a star radio host since December, accused of preparing a coup d'etat with mysterious outlines, had been dropped. This was confirmed by Mali's Supreme Court on Monday. Nearly after 4 months in detention, the 5 detained personalities, including the activist and radio host Mohamed Yusuf Batli, known as Ras Bass, were released on Monday afternoon. Reacting in a statement, ex-Prime Minister Bebel Sise said the decision by the Supreme Court puts a definitive end to the sinister case and hopefully to be unnecessarily persecution and attempts to undermine his honor and dignity as part of an imaginary plot. A report commissioned by the Rwandan government concludes that France was aware that a genocide was being prepared in Rwanda ahead of the 1994 killings. Consequently, the French government bears significant responsibility for enabling a foreseeable genocide. The report published Monday on the Rwandan government website said, the 600-page report says that France did nothing to stop the massacres in April and May of 1994, and in the years after the genocide, it rather tried to cover up its role and even offered protection to some perpetrators. And on the global scene, Derek Chauvin, the ex-police officer filmed with his knee on George Floyd's neck, sparking global protests against racism, was found guilty by the jury on Tuesday and convicted of a 2nd and 3rd-degree murder as well as manslaughter.
We, the jury, in the above entitled matter as to count 1, unintentional 2nd-degree murder while committing a felony, find the defendant guilty. We, the jury, in the above entitled matter as to count 2, third-degree murder, perpetrating an eminently dangerous act, find the defendant guilty. We, the jury, in the above entitled matter as to count 3, second-degree manslaughter, culpable negligence, creating an unreasonable risk, find the defendant guilty. This verdict agreed to this 20th day of April 2021 at 1:45 p.m.
And following a recommendation from prosecutors, Judge Chauvin immediately revoked Chauvin's bail. Chauvin's bail was immediately revoked and he was escorted out of the courtroom with his hands cuffed behind his back and a face almost expressionless behind his mask. He will face a sentencing in 8 weeks and could be sent to prison for decades. He will remain in jail until he's sentenced.
We are finally starting to, as a country, live up to the promise of equal justice under the law for all people. And we don't take this lightly. It was sacrificial blood that made this moment possible for history in America. So let us all rejoice for this moment, but know that we still have work to do. The George Floyd Justice and Policing Accountability Act must be passed so we can get justice for all our brothers and sisters, and we can prevent some of these unjustifiable killings by the people who are supposed to protect and serve us.
According to the American Civil Liberties Union, this is the first time a white police officer has been found legally responsible for the death of a black man in custody in Minnesota's history. This is your digital first Pan-African News Network, TOS Television, and you're watching News Update. We bring you more updates on the global scene, business and sports when we return. Do stay tuned. Welcome back, and still on the global scene. As the world enters the second year of the COVID-19 pandemic, the annual Global Energy Review of the International Energy Agency, which assessed the direction of energy demand and carbon dioxide emissions in 2021, predicts a major surge in carbon-2 emissions. Global energy demand is set to increase by 4.6% in 2021 and more than offsetting the 4% contraction in 2020 and pushing demands of 0.5% above 2019 levels. Almost 70% of the projected increase in global energy demand is in emerging markets and developing economies, where demand is set to rise to 3.4% above 2019 levels. Energy use in advanced economies is on course to be 3% below pre-COVID levels. And on business, a prestigious credit rating firm Moody's has predicted that Ghana will find it more expensive to borrow funds to fund its economy. They have based this on a decline in its revenues and an increase in the interest rate it pays on debts, placing the country on a B3 with a negative outlook. The credit rating agency said the country has high exposure to external financing and it is important for the country to implement a strict austere budget, valued at almost $70 billion. Ghana's economy has so far experienced 2 quarters of the drop in its gross domestic product in the first and second quarters. South Africa's respected economist, Mihail Malukele, has given its expectations of inflation as a 3% in March, even as preparations are made to soon release the consumer price inflation rate for March. The increment is expected to come from higher fuel prices, and February's 2.9% inflation is not expected to spiral out of control. There are expectations that the South African Bank will keep interest rates at its current levels throughout 2021. English Premier League Manchester City said it had begun the process of withdrawing less than 48 hours after the formation of the new European Super League with Chelsea, also preparing to pull out of the competition. Manchester City confirmed their decision via a brief statement, their club website, that they will no longer be a part of the proposed European Super League, the first team to have done so. The Chelsea supporters phoned in response to report that the club are preparing documentation to withdraw from the European Super League, issued a statement that said the position of a number of the club board is now untenable and the supporters will continue to push for it while they await the official confirmation. And on insecurity, Kano Pillars' new high-profile signing, Ahmed Musa, is set to miss over 80% of the team's away matches as the second stanza of the Nigeria's Professional Football League begins in April 28. The announcement of the Super Eagles captain as Pillars' new signing elicited excitement among fans of the domestic league. But our correspondent learned that the former Leicester City forward told the club's management in clear terms that he would not be available for away games. With the revelation, Musa is expected to make his entrance for Pillars on May 5 when the Thai Musa Gida welcomes Eyimba. He will miss the team's next 2 games against Warri Wolves and Plateau United. And that is TRS News Update on your digital first Pan-African News Network. For more updates, visit www.trsnetwork.com. Do follow and like our social media handles on Facebook, Twitter, and Instagram. Remember to subscribe on YouTube and do stay with us and enjoy more programs on TRS Television. I am Rose Aldwin. Thank you for watching.